Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general.
Outlander is a Starz TV series based on the books by Diana Gabaldon about time travellers living in the 18th century. Episode 9, Monsters and Heroes, starts off with Claire tending to a very pregnant Parsley, and everything's apparently fine because she's so used to firing at kids that she can practically do it in her sleep. Oh aye. But it's time to be getting on with a normal day around the ridge. And part of that day involves Roger and Bree having a wee cuddle, only to be woken up by a sweary Jamie.
Shit.
And then they get roused from bed by Jamie frantically knocking at the door. It seems that he wants them to go off hunting, and he's a sharpshooter. And he clicks that he's just interrupted them in bed, and he's like, embarrassment. But still, Rog goes with them, and soon enough they spy a buffalo. So Jim and Mac head down to drive them towards the rest of the crew, and Jamie lines up a shot, and only ends up missing or maybe wounding that buffalo. And while Roger dawdles about trying to get a shot himself, a snake ends up biting Jamie on the leg, and Roger has to soak out all the poison from the wound, but then when he goes to try and find the rest of the hunting party, turns out they all left. So him and Jim decide to camp out for the night, but Jim's in a really bad way. Meanwhile, Claire and Bree are having a deep and introspective conversation on finding purpose in life, and then all the hunters arrive home, and they assume that Roger and Jamie are camped out for the night and everything's fine, which it obviously isn't because Jamie's now all feverish from the infection and from the snakebite venom, and Roger ends up having to swear to kill Bonnet, and then the next day Roger has to drag him halfway back to the house. But luckily they get found by Ian and Fergus, who've been out looking for him since the horses came back by themselves, and that's totally got everybody worried. But back at the big house, Claire's not happy, because it turns out this is quite a bad wound, and Jamie isn't really well at all. He's been taking the penicillin soup, but it's not doing enough. Although he's mostly through the poison, but the infection's gone really bad, and the whole ridge ends up out in a hunt looking for some maggots to eat up the bad bits of the wound. But Jamie starts to have a bit of a panic about Claire amputating if things go bad, and he makes her swear to just let him die instead. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, one of the buffalo wanders in the yard and straight up does a big smash on Brianna, but luckily she has plot armour, so she just bounces like a rag doll and doesn't bother her. And then Claire does a bit of a dead on the buffalo with the rifle, and everyone calms down, and then Jamie even crawls out to have a wee look. And luckily they manage to find some fly babies and they get chomping on the leg, and the tickling seems to cheer him up because he's even kind of nice about Roger.
He's a great comfort. I have Roger and Mac.
But Claire's still really worried about her man either way, and she has kind of a little mini breakdown outside, while Jim gets Roger and Ian to help carry him up to his own bed, and Jim's disparaging comments about having the leg taken off really start to get to Ian, because he feels like it's some kind of slight against his dad and against Fungus, who lost a hand, so that doesn't really go down well very much at all. And Ian gets really cross and he has a bit of a powwow with Fungus, and he's pretty okay with the whole thing because he's, French and he's got a sense of humour about life, so he gives Ian some wise words of advice. But Jamie's still getting worse by the minute, and he ends up all delirious and basically on the brink of death, and then Claire gives him a big naked cuddle, and that brings him back to the land of the living, and then he relents about the amputation. And the next day it's leggy choppy offy time, and thankfully nobody's in a bit of a hurry, and that's good because just before they manage to do the old sawbones, Bree comes running in like, hang on a minute, I've had an idea. And then they end up using the snake's fang as a syringe, and that gets the antibiotics right into his leg. And it's pretty much good all round at that point because meanwhile Parsley had a wee baby in the field, and Roger and Jamie are finally starting to see eye to eye as men, and they're planning to go off on a Bonnet murder hunt. And that should be fun. And finally, just at the end, Jamie admits to Claire that actually, when he was in a really bad way, he actually saw the light at the end of the tunnel. He really was in having what alcoholics refer to as a moment of clarity. But he came back just because of her. Aww. So what did I think? Well, I think this week was actually quite an interesting self-contained wee episode. All of it was on the ridge and almost entirely with just the main cast, and everybody got a line or two, which was nice. And I quite like that this was a little sort of family drama episode, and it took a bit of time and space to let itself breathe. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like on other shows, this would have been the kind of episode that ended with Jamie and Roger getting back to the house, and then there would have just been some wee scene of them saying, well, we got him back in time and we gave him the thing and he was fine. I mean, that's kind of a pretty common TV writing trick, You set two characters who don't normally get on in the story and you send them off somewhere all they're on their own, and one of them gets injured so they have to work together to survive, and by the end they end up being better friends and knowing each other better. I mean, hell, half the episodes in Star Trek used to basically do that. But here, it's only the beginning of things. Because, I mean, it was halfway through the episode, literally round about the midpoint, when they actually got back to the big house. And we actually got plenty of time with Roger and Jamie, slowly growing to respect each other more. I mean, or realistically, Jamie growing to respect Roger. And all it took was a life-threatening injury from Jamie to give the guy a chance. And I'm kind of glad, because hopefully it also means that there's an end to this interminable storyline about rubbish Roger and everybody else looking down on him for his constant failures. I mean, I get it. Roger was rubbish in season 4. So this time round, he's being put down constantly, he's tried a few things and failed, and he's been hanged near to death, and he's crokily talked his cousin-in-law out of suicide, and now he's dragged his father-in-law for a few miles and saved his life. I mean, okay, we get it, show. You know what? Fine, I accept Roger.
I wasn't going to pass up this opportunity. I may never get another one.
And also, I mean, Richard Rankin just, he's a good actor and he grows on you after a while. But also, this was another episode where Sam Heughan did some really good work. I mean, from the embarrassed dad bit at the start and him having to act out the pain and suffering of a guy in a really serious fever, and also the whole bit about him being terrified and dreading losing a limb.
I'm not going to die, and I don't wish to live my life with half a leg. I have a horror of it.
I mean, it was good acting. And not only that, I mean, let's face it, Sam Heughan is super fit, super healthy, gym fit guy who basically has practically a glowing golden tan, and he radiates sort of buff movie star health. I mean, the guy's probably never looked at a chip or a burger in his life. I mean, so making him actually look ill isn't nothing. I mean, in fairness, though, his body's still sculpted like he walked out of the gym 5 seconds before every single shot. But, it's a TV show, you let that slide. But yeah, what I mean is the makeup effects and the prosthetics all looked really great. They were really gnarly and suitably horrible. Although, I mean, I will say that the final shot of his gammy leg looked a little bit over the top. I mean, that's never getting better. I've seen zombies that look better than that. So maybe they should have pulled it back just a little bit before that, with that level of gore. And the buffalo. I mean, that was some really good work because, there was plainly never a buffalo on that set or, on that location. Because I don't think there's actually any buffalo in Scotland. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there aren't any. And even if they are, they're not going to have them standing that near the actors. So, I mean, you can see in some of the shots that it's plainly not entirely real, but it's been done as an effect. But I think it's a real buffalo rather than a CGI one. They've pasted footage of a real buffalo. But it's really, really well lit. Honestly. And not only that, it was a total holy shit moment where it suddenly appears. And it was really good from an effects point of view. I also really loved that this week we got Fungus and Parsley having some character time and getting on with things. I mean, it reminded us that, they've got umpteen kids and they're just kind of getting on with it. They've got their own life outside of all the stuff that goes on with the other characters. And it was good to actually have Fungus having some lines. I mean, he actually got a proper scene, and I hate to say it. Caesar Domboy acted the absolute pants off of John Bell in this scene. I mean, we really got to see that he's a good performer. He's got a measured intelligence about him, and, he delivers his lines in a really naturalistic way. And that actually brings me to the things I had a bit of an issue with this week. I mean, first off, it's the line deliveries in some of the scenes this week. They just weren't great. And I think this might be a directorial problem rather than anything else. And I'll get to why. But I've mentioned before in previous seasons that sometimes John Bell suffers a bit from what's called the shitey Scottish actor problem, which, I'm not saying he's actually a shitey actor, but that was what was called in a sketch on the brilliant comedy show Burnistown.
Shut your mouth. I would never take a land of someone like that.
Wait a minute. What are you both talking in that mad Scottish actor's voice for?
You've been doing the tune, drinking. You're out on your arse.
You know the only people I know that talk like you, Chief Inspector? Shitey Scottish actors.
Get out.
Oh, enunciating your T's, I know, aye. That in case there's any English watching.
And if you check it out, you might notice in this sketch there's a very familiar actor in one of the scenes. But yeah, I'm in no way saying that John Bell is a bad actor. He isn't. But there's been a lot of episodes where he slipped into doing this exact thing.
We got separated in the hunt. We said we'd meet here come dusk.
And it's something that is maybe more of an issue to Scottish listeners because we can actually hear it.
But surely you should listen to Auntie Claire. Stay there, so she can heal your leg properly.
But ironically, it wasn't just him this week. There was the same issue with Katrina Balfe in one scene, and she's not even Scottish.
Doctor, healer, a witch. But I'm not afraid of what they call me. That's what I was born to be. And will be till I die.
But that's similarly been something that I have noticed occasionally. It tends to be more the voiceover than the actual scenes. But it's when people are talking too clearly and over enunciating what they are saying, and it completely pulls me out of the scene, especially in a scene like this where, frankly, I just feel like I don't even know why Brianna and Roger are still at the Ridge. I mean, with her talking about not knowing what she's doing and not able to do the things she needs to do. I know they can't go back because they want to know if Jemmy can hear the stones, obviously that is why. But it feels like they're just laying groundwork for Bree being restless so that potentially they might go back, and reminding us of that because that was a plot point earlier in the season. It's been largely forgotten. But the thing is, she should probably go back. The show has never adequately convinced me that there's a good reason for her to stay now that she's come and warned her parents. Now, yeah, I mean, it's always been because of an outside factor. And the thing is, I'm sorry to say, I don't think hanging out with Jamie and Claire is an adequate reason for her to want to stay forever, in that time. I mean, it's normal for kids to fly the nest, and obviously they would only want to come back when they were older. I mean, in terms of like a real family and stuff, in the real world in the normal time. But in this thing, she wants to be an engineer and an architect, and she's now stuck in the olden times where not only is she not taken seriously by anyone because she's a woman, but she doesn't have the materials and things to work and do the thing she loves doing. I mean, she's only supposed to be 24 at most or something, and she hasn't actually lived a real life back in the modern day or the 70s. So frankly, yeah, Bree should just go home. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Going back to the voice thing, the other thing we had was a barest smidge of a voiceover this week, and while it wasn't actually badly delivered, it was an awful lot of purple prose, but the other thing is, it didn't really add anything. It was just, here's a little bit. It's probably a snippet directly from the book, but it just comes and it goes, and it doesn't even lead into what's happening on screen in the next bit. And I hate stuff like that, because it just felt like it was there just because. And another thing that bugged me, at the start of the episode, Bree and Roger are lying in bed and Jamie comes knocking. And aside from that being uncharacteristically brash behaviour from Jamie, like, it's supposed to be early in the morning, does he not think they might be in bed together? I mean, this is the same guy who was lying in bed in a tent with his missus the day he's supposed to be getting up and fighting a war. So the same guy, anyway, he comes and knocks on the door, but it's Roger Mack. He keeps shouting, Roger Mack, Roger Mack. And then he comes inside, and the entire scene is played like actually he came there to get Bree, because he wanted her sharpshooting skills. And it seems like she kind of forces the issue so that he has to take Roger, but he didn't really want to. But then why was he looking for Roger? It just seems like a bit of bad writing there. But my main bugbear of the episode was actually something else, and that was the needle. Now, fair enough. I actually kind of like the idea of them using the snake fang as a syringe. I thought that was kind of cool. It was a really good idea. It made sense in the story. And quite aside from the fact, as I said, that Jamie's leg looked like kind of hamburger meat by this point. I mean, so much so you could have basically poured the antibiotic straight into the wound because half of his leg looked like it was minced. But presumably Claire still has the needle because, like, the guy stood on the syringe and it broke. But that would only break the glass. It wouldn't actually break the hollow needle. I mean, unless she just threw it away. So why didn't she try and fix it? I mean, it's a really valuable thing. I mean, the second she said she couldn't inject him, I was like, well, you've still got that needle, surely. Are you not just going to, like, poke the needle through, like, some kind of bladder and gum it up with some wax or something like that and then use that instead? That would make more sense, the needle from a syringe. But instead they use a fang. So I just don't get it. It made no sense. I mean, you could use tons of things for that sort of thing. You could, hell, you could have used a feather, the pointy end of a feather if that was hollow. And she's supposed to be really resourceful. I mean, I would have thought she would have been making a makeshift syringe or something from the parts left over, and that would have been a major priority, because it's been months since Alamance. But anyway, I suppose, the heroic fang thing had to happen, because I'm guessing it's what happens in the book. Maybe the syringe doesn't happen in the book. Maybe that was completely different. I mean, you can tell me in the comments. I mean, am I right? Am I wrong? Anyway, while we're at it, sorry, also, right, Bree is now a quadriplegic because, she got absolutely smashed by a buffalo. There's no way she just got up and walked that off. Like, that's getting run over by the Land Rover. That was just crazy to me. Even though I liked that scene, that bit of it was just nuts. But yeah, overall, it wasn't actually a bad episode. I quite enjoyed it. I had a good time. I mean, I know I grumped a wee bit, but as I said, I've still enjoyed it a lot. I'm still enjoying the series. I feel like it has kind of meandered a little bit in the middle here, but I feel like now we're finally going in the final stretch of the last 3 episodes towards the end of the season, and it seems quite interesting. I mean, clearly a lot of it's going to be tied up with Bonnet, and I'm really curious to see how that all ends up. So till next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions. And a final shout out to my wee pal Michelle Forbes, my top tier patron. Thanks, you're an absolute star. Keep safe and keep well, and everybody else, you take care out there.